Iceland and also Greenland, also presented by our North region college. And welcome and thanks once again, Masako, and also our colleague from the North region to join us today. We understand that today we also have compete with some other workshop, like we have Switzerland workshop from the Switzerland Tourism Board, and also we have some airline, they also do the workshop together with us in the same time. And thank you for all of you to join us and also spare your time to join us. We understand that now for Vietnam Asian, you already gather into the office, and some of you from the Asian also gather together in the meeting room to sharing, and also we would like to thank you for your arrangement and also for your timing, taking care, and also joining our workshop. Before we handle from our colleagues from the North region to representative from the destination surveys, we also would love to listen from you once again and more again to give you the better confirmation and also give you better information presentation. And also I would love to bring up that from your surveys. We know that the destination you also would love to listen up to our North region. And with that reason, we already agreement with our team to increase and also to confirm all the workshop from now until June and July. And with that one, I would like to inform you that we already confirmed all the slot and also workshop together with our European team and also with the Asian. Do not worry, I will send out the invitation and also the reminder one again on your Outlook so that you can join us. Just remember that we already noticed that we will do it every Tuesday and Thursday, 3 p.m. our time. And I would love to go through our upcoming session in June. We have Russia focus on Moscow, St. Petersburg, and also Moscow for the aurora hauntings. We also got confirmed from our colleagues also from the Nordics for part 5 for Denmark and Faroe Island. We got confirmed from Baltic area with Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And coming up for June and July, we also have the session for Eastern Europe, Balkans, Iberia, South France. And coming up with July, we also invite you to go to UK, Scotland Island, Mono Switzerland, and Mono Germany. So no worry that even during the certain time we cannot travel much, but let us bring you to our destination and bring you to travel around the world before we get ready to travel and brings our customer, our guests to come to all those beautiful destinations. With that, maybe let me hand over for our colleagues from the North region.
Thank you so much, Karen. My name is Hörður. Good afternoon to everybody. Good morning from Iceland. It's 8 o'clock in the morning here in Iceland, and I'm just going to share my screen with you. I hope everybody can hear me okay. One sec. I'm not allowed to share the screen, Karen. Could you make me the co-host so I'm able to share the screen?
Already done. Can you try to share the one again?
No, I cannot.
How is the temperature in Reykjavik this morning?
I can't share the screen.
hear me, Hurdur?
Yes, I can hear you. Share
No,
screen
just
button.
wondering.
Yeah, I'm trying to share this. I know how to share the screen. It's just not allowed.
No. How's the temperature?
It's
That
very
was my
cold.
question.
It's very cold. It's about
How is
5
it?
degrees.
5 degrees.
Yeah, 5 degrees. Yeah. Okay, there we go. I think it's working now. There we go. So once again, my name is Hörður. I'm calling in from Reykjavik, Iceland. I'm one of our Koni Tumlares operatives in Iceland. We have, just real quick, we have 7 offices in Scandinavia and in the north region. I am the only representative in Reykjavik, but my colleagues are scattered all over Scandinavia and the north regions. We have 27 staff members in Oslo and Copenhagen, Stockholm, Tallinn and Helsinki, and then in Russia 2 offices. As you can see, our north region is home to 6 of the least densely populated countries in Europe, and Iceland and Greenland are among. I did not put Greenland on the map, but Greenland is the least densely populated country in Europe. This is our team in Oslo and in Reykjavik, Team Norway and Iceland, a combined team. And I've been representative here in Reykjavik since 2018. Now, just real quickly before I start with Iceland as a destination, I wanted to go through the COVID-19 situation here in Iceland and what has been happening over the last 2 months. So we had our first case on February 28th, originating from northern Italy, as most countries in Northern Europe did. And we had the nationwide ban on all gatherings and travel abroad, of course, like most countries, from March 24th. And that was in effect for 2 months. So as of 3 days ago, May 25th, we only had 3 active infections in the country. You can see from the column on your right-hand side. The orange tiles are the recoveries and the blue tiles are the active infections. So they've been going down drastically all of May, and everything is now open again in the country. So hotels, restaurants, bars, swimming pools, local gyms, everything has opened up again as of Monday. And the government is now rehashing plans to open up for all travel, or for travel, not all travel, but travel in steps after June 15th. So June 15th is the date that they're working after. And they're settling on a plan now with the local medical authorities to open Iceland up again. So this is very good news. This means that travelers once again can come and visit our beautiful island soon. Now, what makes Iceland a special destination? Well, in my view, our beautiful nature and our wilderness and the possibility to go out into nature and spend time in complete wilderness absolutely alone is second to none. And this is also true for Greenland. We are peaceful and we are safe. We've been #1 on the Global Peace Index now 10 years in a row, which means that crime is few and far between statistically in the country. We're a land of huge contrast. It doesn't matter when you come. You can either visit us during the time of the midnight sun, when the sun does not set for 24 hours, or you can visit us during the time of the Northern Lights between April and October. We're a country of renewable energy. We use the warm and the heat and the energy that the country gives us. So 87% of our heating comes from geothermal power, which comes from the earth below us. And 74% of our heating also comes from hydroelectrical power, our electricity. And we are also a country, of course, of wilderness and beautiful nature. And as I mentioned before, we are actually the second least densely populated country in Europe, meaning that the island is quite big compared to its population. We have about 360,000 people living in the country and about 103,000 square kilometers of area. So the island is bigger than Ireland, for example, almost twice the size of Denmark. So it's quite large, but the population is rather small. Now, most of the population lives in the capital of Reykjavik and the municipalities and the surrounding areas around the capital. So around 60% of the country lives in the Reykjavik the Reykjavik area, around 200,000 people. Our language is Icelandic, spoken only by these 360,000 people. And the fun fact is that the language Icelandic has only been spoken by around 2 million people, only 2 million people in the history of humankind. So there's only been about 2 million Icelanders ever speaking the language that we speak. So it's quite a rare language that we try to preserve as best we can. Our national day is the 17th of June. It's our Independence Day, when we got our independence, 1944. And our currency is also quite small, the smallest independent currency in the world. And it's called the krona, like most other currencies in local independent currencies in Scandinavia, Icelandic krona. Now, what I wanted to do with you today is I wanted to go quickly through two itineraries that I made that can be used for any sort of groups, for ad hoc groups, for MICE, for incentives, that take you around the main parts of the island. So this is the island. This is Iceland. Here is the capital of Reykjavik, in the southwest tip of the country, and the international airport is here as well, in the Reykjanes Peninsula in Keflavik. And the first itinerary that I'm going to go with you today is around the south coast area here. This is what I call the essential Iceland. The main the tourist destinations here in the country are located on the south shore or in the south tip of the country. And then for the second itinerary, I wanted to take you to a little bit off the beaten track into the west region, around Snæfellsnes National Park here in the peninsula, and up into the north of Iceland, to the capital of the north, called Akureyri. So I'm going to take you through those two itineraries. They're both 5 days, 4 nights, and I call them the quintessential and best that Iceland has to offer. And like I said, this can be, both of these itineraries can be mixed and matched together. As you can see, the first one takes us a little bit around the south coast. Usually European flights coming in from Europe are arriving in the afternoon. So on the first day, we would usually either take a detour here on the south coast before heading into the capital, and arranging a welcome dinner in one of our event places here if we're doing MICE or incentives. Get better to that in the later slides. So our day 2 would usually consist of the Golden Circle plus a snowmobile activity on top of Langjökull Glacier. Langjökull Glacier is the second biggest glacier in the country, and that is our destination for the day. We start the day in Reykjavik in one of our many great hotels that we have in the city, and we head into nature and into the national park, or Þingvellir, which is our first stop of the day. Þingvellir National Park is of great historical importance to all Icelanders. This is where our parliament was founded in 930. We pride ourselves for having the oldest functioning parliament in the world. In debate sometimes if it's functioning or not. It's also a spot of great geological importance. It's where the two tectonic plates, you can see the tectonic plates here. This is the rift between them is called it's called the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, basically. This is the Eurasian plate and the American plate on either side, and they are pulling each other apart 2 centimeters per year. So you can walk inside the rift, and it's quite beautiful and quite majestic to see. So this is our first stop of the day before we head on to a spot called Kerið Crater. This is a volcanic crater. We can walk on top of the small mountain or the small hill and overlook the crater, and even walk down towards the little lake inside of it. Now, one of the main stops on this day is the Geysir geothermal area. Of course, highly popular to view the geysers and see them blow steam and water up almost 30 meters into the air. They erupt every 10 to 15 minutes, and it's only about a 45-minute drive outside of the national park. Golden Waterfall, Gullfoss Waterfall, is another stop. This is usually where we stop for lunch. We're quite high into the highlands once we're at the Gullfoss Waterfall, and from there we would board a monster truck or a super jeep that would take us off-road and drive us up towards the glacier. Like I said earlier, this is the second biggest glacier in the country, and located in the middle of the highlands, absolutely in the middle of nowhere. There's no buildings or no towns or no cities in almost 150 kilometer radius surrounding the glacier. And from there we would board snowmobiles and we would drive high up onto the glacier. The snowmobile tour takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and it can be combined with a trip into an ice cave as well. Usually what we do after the snowmobile tour is we would return back to base camp, where we would set up what we call a grand glacier buffet. This is of course optional. We've done this with many groups, either outside, straight on the glacier if weather permits, or inside a tent, fitting the size of the group, obviously. And this is prepared by our caterer in Reykjavik and driven up onto the glacier for the group to enjoy. Now I've added some optional activities to add on to each day. And the first one that I wanted to add on here is called the Geothermal Bakery Tour. This is located just outside of the national park. And from here you can view, so the ground by this lake is extremely hot. It's about 90 degrees warm. And you can bake rye bread, or they bake rye bread in the 90 degrees warm ground. And then they dig it up from the ground and they can serve it to you with some trout and eggs. And it's quite very delicious bread to eat straight from the warm ground. So rye bread. Another option would be silvra diving. This is one of the clearest underwater diving or snorkeling experiences that you can have in the world. And this takes you right down into the crevasse, Silvra crevasse, which is in between the two tectonic plates in the national park that I showed you earlier. And as you can see from the pictures, it's quite beautiful to dive there for those who are interested, or snorkeling for those who are interested in that. Now, so usually after this day, the Golden Circle Day, we would recommend spending the night in the south coast, or Selfoss, which is located only 45 minutes outside of Reykjavik. Or it's also quite possible to go back into the city after the Golden Circle Day and enjoy the evening in the city before heading to our next day, which takes us to the south coast and to the lovely village of Vik, with a few stops on the way. So the south coast is, of course, recognized mostly for its black sand beaches and its crawling glaciers they're crawling into the black sand, but it's also known for its waterfalls. And Seljalandsfoss waterfall is one of them. This is a waterfall you can walk behind and get some great picturesque views. And it's sitting on the water comes down from a high mountain above, and the mountain is called Eyjafjallajökull volcano. This is the famous volcano that erupted in 2010, disrupting all air traffic in the meantime. So you'll get some great views of the volcano here. We also offer some tours on the volcano. You can go snowmobiling, for example, on the volcano, and some super jeep trips up to the crater as well. Other waterfalls, Skógarfoss. This is a beautiful, little bigger waterfall that has become increasingly popular in the last few years due to the Game of Thrones being filmed there in season 7 2 years ago. And then the main stop of the day is usually Reynisfjara Black Sand Beach, as I mentioned earlier. This is Black Sand Beach stretching for many, many kilometers, but our most popular stop on the Black Sand Beach is the Reynisfjara one, right next to the village of Vik, because of its lovely rock formations out in the water. Puffins nest there in the summertime, and a beautiful stop. Now we have some activities to recommend. One of them is an ATV tour on the Black Sand beaches, which takes you down to a DC-3 plane wreck, which crashed on these black sands in 1973. It's an American Army plane with no casualties, crashed there in 1973. You can't really get down there, but unless you use an ATV, it's almost 6 kilometers to walk. So we offer this activity to get down to the plane wreck to get some nice pictures with the black sand beach in the background. Now, a glacier hike, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of glaciers on the south coast as well, stretching down into the black sand. and we offer glacier hikes on them. Solheimabuk Glacier, for example, is one of the more popular ones, easy to access if you want to experience how it is to walk on compressed and ancient ice. And we also offer to go inside that ice, and that is what's called the ice cave under the volcano. And these are ice caves that have opened up in the last few years, and they're underneath a dormant volcano called Katla. And you can access the ice caves quite easily. You need to board the monster truck once again, drive off-road for about half an hour, and then 5 to 10 minute hike into the ice caves. And absolutely one of my absolute favorite experiences to do on the south coast by far. Now, an optional cruise as well on the Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon. This is a bit of a drive away from the south coast from Vík, but also an experience not to be missed. You can see this is a lagoon that is formed from a crawling glacier that has been melting in the last couple of years. So unfortunately, the lagoon is getting bigger and bigger. But we offer cruises on the lagoon, either by amphibian boats or by Zodiac boats. You can see the boats here on the right-hand side, so you can see that the icebergs are quite massive. Reykjavik city tour. So after our day on the south coast, we would usually head back into the city of Reykjavik, and we'd use day 4 as a city day, and we can offer some optional things to do on the city day. But first of all, we would start with a little orientation tour around the city. We'd hit the major spots. This is Hallgrímskirkja Church, one of the first stops on our day. This is the largest building in the country, almost 93 meters high. You can access into the tower and get some nice picturesque views of the city. Harpa Opera House, again, this is an opera house that was built on the pier in 2011, or opened in 2011. And also is home to our many events hall that we use for groups. Höfði House, this is the house where Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev met in 1986 for a summit to try to end the Cold War. So a house of historical importance. And then usually the last stop on the tour is Perlan Museum. These are 6 hot water tanks, each of them combining or containing an exhibit on natural history in Iceland, or natural wonder in Iceland, called the Wonders of Iceland Museum. So on top of the building, you can see there's a glass dome on top of the towers. There's a viewing platform overlooking the city, and inside the glass dome there's a revolving restaurant which turns 360 degrees in about 2 hours. So you won't get too queasy over dinner. It does not revolve that fast, but a fantastic restaurant, which I will get more to later. Now some optional, so the city tour is only a half-day tour, so we usually offer some half-day tours opposite the city tour. Whale watching cruise is a perfect thing. You can takes 3 hours and you get into Reykjavik Bay, and the bay or the fjord around Reykjavik is called Whale Fjord. So there are plenty of whales to be seen in summertime and wintertime, all year round cruise. In the wintertime, we offer a Northern Lights cruise. You don't really have to go far outside of Reykjavik to exit the light pollution and to be able to see the Northern Lights. Or a visit up into the lava fields above Reykjavik, where we offer a horseback riding tour, for example. This is a great way to spend the other half of the day. It's a great group activity. And we also have some cave trips to offer as well outside of the city. Now, so this was our city day, day 4. And day 5 we would usually reserve for the Blue Lagoon. So the Blue Lagoon is located only 20 minutes away from the international airport. So it's easily combined either on arrival or departure. So we don't need to spend half a day or full day going to the Blue Lagoon. We would either do it on arrival or on departure, depending on which is more convenient for the group, depending on flight times and such things. Now, Blue Lagoon probably needs no introduction. The most popular sightseeing spot or destination in the country. It had 1.3 million visitors last year, so almost 4 times the population of the country in 1 year, which does not happen in many countries around the world. So this is a an excess lagoon from a geothermal plant which formed there in 1975 and is known to have its healing purposes for people with skin problems and other things. They offer masks that you can put on, alga masks, and from other material coming from the lagoon, natural materials, which can be found inside the lagoon. The lagoon has a bar, of course, a restaurant, an event hall, 5-star hotel, and quite a massive operation. So we can accustom the needs at the Blue Lagoon to the group and what they request. Now, so that was the first itinerary, the essential Iceland. Since we are in Reykjanes, Reykjanes Peninsula is the peninsula that I mentioned earlier, where the airport is located. I wanted to add this day kind of as an optional add-on. It's called the Reykjanes Peninsula Tour, and it's basically a trip around the peninsula, around the Keflavik Airport Peninsula. I did this drive myself only a few weeks ago, and it's quite. I hadn't done it in maybe 2 years or 1.5 years, and it's much more beautiful than I remembered. The first stop is usually at Kleifárvatn Lake. This is only 10 minutes outside of the city center, 10-15 minutes, a volcanic lake located in some beautiful surroundings. Hrísberg Cliffs, this is the second biggest bird cliff in the country. They have some lovely views out onto the North Atlantic Ocean. Gunnukver hot spring area, another hot spring area located just 15 minutes from the international airport, believe it or not. You can see these views when you're flying over, when you're landing in the country. And this we call the bridge between continents. It's a bridge that has been built across the two tectonic plates in the middle of this sandy area on the Reykjanes Peninsula. It feels absolutely like you hear sometimes that when you land in Iceland, it feels like landing on the moon. It's very much true when driving on the Reykjanes Peninsula. You feel like you're a little bit on the moon. Now, so that was just a short detour. Now I wanted to take you on an itinerary that I call Iceland off the beaten track. This is kind of what I think is things that people don't do enough of. The tours that visitors to the country should do more. Instead of just going to the south coast, these are sightseeing trips that are my personal favorite that I wanted to show you. And the first one we call the Silver Circle. It takes you to the area of Borgarfjörður, northwest of the city. And from this day we start in Reykjavik on day 2, and we drive into Borgarfjörður Fjord and up onto the glacier of Langigut, the same glacier that we were snowmobiling on before, and we head then back to the village of Borgarnes, where we spend the night. Now, the first stop of the day is Rauðfossar waterfall. These are waterfalls that come straight out of an ancient lava field in the area and into a glacier river running down from Langigut Glacier. Speaking of Langigut Glacier, that is our next stop of the day, literally inside of the glacier. We take a monster truck, we board the monster truck down on the ground and then drive almost 1,200 meters up onto the glacier. And inside, or then we walk inside a tunnel that has been man-made or dug into the glacier, drilled, I would say, into the glacier. And inside of there's a chapel. You can get married there if people wish. There's a small, like a restaurant or a bar area, and you get a guided tour around or inside of the glacier. Now after lunch, we would head into one of the deepest lava caves in the world. Now for those of you who are claustrophobic, this is quite spacious. It's very deep, but it's very open and spacious. And the accessibility is very good. They built platforms and stairs and steps to ensure the safety of people who visit, but it's absolutely a fantastic experience to go this deep into the ground that the lava cave permits. This is in my hometown area. I visited many times as a kid with or not many times, but a few times with my dad, and I don't remember the accessibility being that good, but now they've done a fantastic job building it up with platforms and rails and steps to ensure the safety. An optional tour for the Borgarfjörður Day are a new natural baths, geothermal baths that opened in 2017. This is in one of the hottest hot springs in the country. they formed they founded some natural baths that can be visited as well. Now another additional day would be the Diamond Circle Day. Now this is done from Reykjavik, and it takes you into the capital of the north. As I mentioned earlier, the capital of the north is called Akureyri. You can drive there. It takes almost 3.5, 4 hours, but we would recommend taking a flight from Reykjavik. You can get downtown Reykjavik to downtown Akureyri in only 45 minutes, and quite easy to access with our partners, Air Iceland Connect, the local domestic airline. Now from Akureyri, as you can see in the right-hand side picture, you take a little circle, another circle called the Diamond Circle, which takes us around the main attractions in Akureyri, or in the north, sorry. The first one being waterfall Godafoss, the waterfall of the gods, as they call it. In the north, only half an hour, 45-minute drive outside of Akureyri. Ásbyrgi Canyon. This is one of my favorite spots in the country. A horseshoe-like canyon with a forest in the middle of it, and then a little pond at the end, and some fantastic spots to hike in the canyon. And then Dettifoss Waterfall, which is the most powerful waterfall in Europe. It dispenses the most volume of water of any waterfall on the continent, and really picture does not do it justice. It's located inside of a canyon, a little mini canyon that I at least remember calling it the Icelandic Grand Canyon, for humorous reasons, obviously, but it's quite majestic to see the powerful waterfall down there. Now our accommodation for the night is Lake Miva. I've always said that Lake Miva is kind of like a miniature version of the country. It has your geothermal areas, it has volcanic craters, it has artificial volcanic craters, it has beautiful rock formations, natural baths, even some ice tours, caves, groves that you can visit, and you can spend 2 days there and you would still find things to do. And that is our accommodation of the night, and we would spend the next morning then enjoying the sights at Lake Miva. They have 3 4-star hotels now at Lake Miva, which is quite a change from what it was a few years ago. GOC in Húsavík is another optional tour that we can add on to these 2 days in the north. GOC these are geothermal baths, once again, that have been opened in Húsavík, overlooking the bay. This is the northernmost tip of the country. Can't really get farther north than this. The next stop, if you head farther north, is the North Pole. So you're quite far north when you're up there. And now Húsavík is called the whale watching capital. We like to call things after capitals, and whale watching capital of Iceland is Húsavík. They had last summer 97% probability of seeing whales on their cruises, which is of course fantastic. And I've taken this cruise a few times, and you always see the whales out in the bay outside of the town. So that was the second itinerary that I wanted to prepare with you. And like I said before, all of these days they can be mixed and matched together. so to be created with each other, basically. So you can do the South Shore Day with the Borgarfjörður trip, or you can combine an itinerary which consists of both the Golden Circle and then a trip to the north, for example. So yeah, they can be mixed and matched together. I wanted to go through some venues that we have just quickly for those who are interested before we head on to Greenland. The Lava restaurant I mentioned earlier. This is the restaurant at the Blue Lagoon. This is a venue that we've used quite many times for groups. This of course can be used also as a restaurant for adult groups and also as an event place for incentive groups. This room has a capacity for over 450 people and can be privatized with a visit into the Blue Lagoon, of course. And the food there also very, very good. I mentioned this place earlier. This is a Viking-themed restaurant located in a turf house. So these are the buildings that the Icelanders of old, the Vikings, used to live in. And usually we have like a Viking themed welcome dinner there. It's located not far from the international airport. So it's great on arrival to get a bit of the old culture of Iceland. The Vikings, of course, are the ones that settled the country, and we can even hire some ancient Vikings to perform tricks and battle, and throw axes and stuff outside of the restaurant on arrival to give it a bit of an authentic feel. Perlan Museum, I also mentioned earlier, this is not only a fantastic venue place, but also just a great restaurant, one of the best restaurants in the country, not just for the views, but for the food as well. I mentioned the restaurant revolves 360 degrees in under 2 hours. They're expanding now. They're actually making it was half cafe, half restaurant, but now they are making the entire glass dome once again a restaurant. So it has capacity now for up to 300 people, but will be even more in 2021 once they expand. This is by far the most popular venue place in Iceland. It can be combined also with the museums that I mentioned in the hot water tanks below. The 6 hot water tanks have natural history exhibitions in them, and then we sometimes do a canopy standing party in the hot water tanks, then before moving up to dinner in Perlan. Viðey Island, this is an island just off the bay in the city of Reykjavik in the bay, which has the oldest buildings in Reykjavik, built in the 1700s, and one of the buildings contains a venue house which has the capacity of up to 150 packs. This is great to combine, for example, with a whale watching cruise or Northern Lights cruise in the evening, and then heading on to a dinner in Viðey. Whales of Iceland is a museum. I did not mention this museum before. They have real-size replicas of whales inside of the museum, and this can be turned into an event place in the evening. Quite spectacular once they've done it up. It's a museum in the daytime, but can be turned into either a standing party or a sit down. In classical setting, can fit up to 400 people among the gigantic whales. Reykjavik Art Museum, one of my favorite venue places, located downtown Reykjavik. Basically it's my favorite because it can be done up in many different ways. And the most popular one, Harpa Opera Hall, has 7 different event places or 7 different halls, with the biggest one, Silverberg, with a capacity of 600 people. But for any event, Harpa is our first stop usually, because basically because of you can do many different events in Harpa in their 7 halls that they have there. Now hotels, quickly, I'm not going to go through them individually, but we have 4-star properties, 3-star properties in all of the regions, and consisting with all of the itineraries that I made in Reykjavik and in the south coast and in the north as well. And we also have some special accommodation. For example, the Retreat Hotel at the Blue Lagoon, which has private access to a secret lagoon or a private lagoon, a 5-star property. And also Hotel Grímsborg is another 5-star property on the south coast. And so, yeah, if you need more information about hotels, you can just contact us, and we can have a separate, we can send you a separate presentation for that as well. Moving on, icy Greenland. Moving on to Greenland, our brother in the east, brother in the west, sorry. This is the least densely populated country in the world, as I mentioned earlier. It's 2.1 million square kilometers with only 56,000 inhabitants. The inhabitants of the island are mainly located on the east coast of the country, where the capital city of Nuuk is. Nuuk is the capital city of Greenland, where about 12,000 people live, and it's located on the east part of the island. So the island consists mainly of an ice splinter or an ice cap, which is about 80% of the country. So the country is not at all green, but almost mainly ice. And the story goes in the olden days that the two names Greenland and Iceland were used by the Vikings to confuse visitors visiting the north. So not wanting to find Iceland, they named it find Greenland. Sorry, they named it Iceland, and vice versa. Greenland is not independent. They have an autonomous. They're an autonomous region under the Kingdom of Denmark. So they have their own parliament, but they are still under the kingdom or the Queen of Denmark. So their currency is the Danish krona. The official language is Greenlandic, but they also speak Danish as well. There are absolutely no roads in the country between towns. That is, there are roads on their streets, obviously, and in the towns, but there are no roads connecting any towns. So the only possibility is either to take a plane, obviously, a helicopter, or in some cases you can take a boat between towns in very rare occasions. The possibility to reach Greenland is through Copenhagen all year round, the capital of Denmark, or Iceland. It says Keflavik, but you can also fly in from Reykjavik City domestic airport in the summertime. This is between May and the beginning of September. So yeah, little general information. Now I wanted to go through three major towns that we have the best connection with. Two of them are on the west side of the island, and one of them is on the east side. Now, as I mentioned before, most of the country's inhabitants live on the west coast, and one of the villages there is Ilulissat, which inhabits almost 4,900 people. So it's quite big on a Greenlandic scale. It's the third biggest town, and it's mostly famous, of course, for its beautiful Ilulissat glacier, which is located in what's called the Ice Fjord, the fjord surrounding Ilulissat. Now, Ilulissat is accessible by domestic flight within Greenland, of course, and both Copenhagen and Keflavik in the summertime. It takes about 5 hours, 4.5 hours to fly to Ilulissat from Reykjavik. And what many people try and get from their visit to Ilulissat is, of course, the beautiful midnight sun there. They have it much longer than we do here in Iceland. It lasts for almost 2 months of the summer season, from 20th of May to the 20th of July. And the sun never sets, basically, as it's a little bit farther than the North Pole. So we have a few excursions that we do from Ilulissat. The first one that I wanted to mention is the Hunters Village, the village of Ilimanak, which is a local, it's an Inuit village. Inuits are the inhabitants of Greenland, the people that built Greenland and still live there, and they still hunt for food. Of course, they hunt seals and whales and all sorts of animals to stay alive. And we offer a visit or a combination of a boat trip onto the ice fjord, and then a walking tour to the village of Ilmanak, the Hunters Village, as they call it. Now, the iceberg cruise around the bay in the Ilulissat, or the fjord, the ice fjord, is extremely popular and beautiful. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, as the icebergs can rise up to 100 meters above the sea level. Quite a majestic sight to see. It takes almost 3 hours to do from Ilulissat, from the village, and is an absolute must when visiting. Now, when you think of Greenland, at least in my mind, I usually think of dog sledding. Dog sledding is quite possible in the summertime as well. As I mentioned earlier, almost 80% of the country is an ice cap, so there's snow all year round. So there are some experienced Inuit fishermen that will guide you on the dog sledding tour, and they take you up into the wilderness of Ilulissat on a dog sledding tour. And another one is a city walk around the city of Ilulissat. Knut Rasmussen is one of the more famous polar explorers and has a museum dedicated to him in the town. Midnight sun cruise, of course, we have some options on the ice fjord itself. Midnight sun cruise, kayaking, which is probably the best way to get around the icebergs, to maneuver around them as they can be quite many of them on the fjord in the summertime. A whale safari, of course. There are whales in Ilulissat as well. And all of these boat tours and kayak tours can be offered in the summertime as well. Now, the next village is the village of Kangerlussuaq, also on the west coast of Greenland. This is a smaller village, and it's mostly famous for its entrance into the ice cap, basically. So there are two entry points into the ice cap here. As I mentioned earlier, the ice cap, the fast ice cap is about 80% of the country, but it's hardly accessible. But Kangerlussuaq is one of the places where it is accessible to go onto the ice cap itself. Now, Kangerlussuaq was built by the American Army. So that the infrastructure of the town was built by the American Army during the Second World War, and the airport is the biggest airport in the country due to that connection with the American Army. A few excursions that we offer from Kangerlussuaq, most of them are located or connected with the inland ice cap. We do offer what's called a tundra safari, where we take a 4-wheel drive truck and go explore the wildlife of Kangerlussuaq and the area around it. For example, seeing the big musk oxes in their natural habitat, an experience you can't really have anywhere except for Greenland and Alaska. And then the inland ice cap, as I mentioned earlier, is the main attraction of Kangerlussuaq. There are two entry points into the ice cap, and we offer tours to both of them. It takes about 5 hours to get there by a van. There are no buses that can drive there, but there are four-wheel drive vehicles that can get up to the glacier and to the ice cap. The first entry point is point 660, as it's called, and then you travel by land into the entry point. And the second one is called the Russell Glacier, which in my view is a bit more majestic. I would recommend that more, as you can see kind of the ice cap rise above you. You kind of access, or if you've seen the Game of Thrones, it's kind of like the Grand Wall. It rises almost 40 meters high into the air. Now, ice fishing is the most popular pastime activity in Greenland, and also done out of necessity. To fish in the winter time, you need to, of course, dig a hole into the ice, as the ice is usually quite thick in the winter time. And we offer an experienced guide that can help us maneuver that. Now, the third city that I wanted to mention, or the third town, is on the east side of Greenland, closer to Iceland, so it's a shorter flight trip. Here we can offer day tours here, even though of course it's recommended to spend the night to get a little bit of a better feel for the country. This is to the village of Kulusuk on the east side of the country. And we have some private boat tours, some village walks, and some glacier cruises as well here in Kulusuk. But in all honesty, I would rather recommend, in my experience, both Kangerlussuaq and Ilulissat are much better destinations to visit in Greenland. If you want the full experience of going to Greenland, I would rather recommend Kangerlussuaq or Ilulissat for that. So that is the end of my presentation. I have a few questions that I wanted to throw to the group to see how well you've been paying attention, obviously. So if you can enter, Karen, should I start with the questions?
Just a moment, please. So we would like to invite for some Q&A first before we go into our fun quiz. It's okay. It's okay.
No problem. If there's any questions.
Yes, we just go through both a destination, Iceland and Greenland. So now we would like to open for your Q&As in case you have any question or would love to go deep dive into our destination. Please go ahead. So we have first question regarding to the cuisines and restaurants. Is there any Asia restaurant there in Iceland and Greenland?
There are no Asian restaurants in Greenland, unfortunately, but there are quite many Asian restaurants in Iceland. We have Vietnamese restaurants, Chinese restaurants, Thai restaurants, Indian restaurants, obviously. So there are quite many in Iceland, but not many in Greenland. No.
Thank you. So we're looking for some more questions from our Asian. Shopping.
Shopping.
Yes.
Shopping can absolutely be done in Iceland. In downtown Reykjavik, there's a main shopping street which leads, it's almost 2 kilometers long, leading down from the main church that I showed you earlier, Hallgrímskirkja Church, and down into the downtown area. 3 big shopping malls, and I actually have, if you can bear with me just 1 second, I have actually a small presentation or a few slides that I can show you about shopping in Iceland just real quickly. I think I have them here in this presentation. Just 1 sec. No, I don't have it here. Yeah, but there's a different shopping opportunities to be done. Mostly the most popular is to go to outdoor shopping. So basically, some outdoor clothing lines that are very popular called 66 Degrees North, for example, and local jewelries and stuff like that. So yeah, there's lots of shopping opportunities to be had in Iceland, basically. Best time of year to travel to Iceland, any time of year, basically. If you want to see the Northern Lights, you come between October and April. My favorite time is the shoulder season, September, October, April, May, for example. That is by far my favorite, the best time to travel. Weather is very suitable, yes, for the elderly. The weather in Greenland can be quite fickle and can be quite difficult to maneuver, but the weather in Iceland it's calmer than in Greenland, and our temperatures are very mild, basically both in summer and in winter. It does not get very, very cold in the winter, and unfortunately it does not get very, very warm in the summer either. Ice caves and glaciers. Glaciers can be visited in the summertime, yes. Ice caves cannot. Ice caves start to melt a little bit in spring and summertime, so the ice caves can only be visited, I would say, between beginning of October onto the end of March, similar to the Northern Lights season. Special cuisine to try in Greenland and Iceland, absolutely to try. I would recommend to try whale. Even though it's politically unstable we still fish for whale, so whale is something you can try. We also eat puffin here in Iceland. We have a great history of hunting them and eating. Yeah, basically those 2 things I would say. How is the visa situation? Well, you would probably need to contact your embassy, but quite easy to get a visa, to travel visa to Iceland or Greenland for that matter. Should we get to the questions, Karen? Let's see. The best souvenirs. Yeah. The best souvenirs to do for mice groups. I actually have. Can't find the slide. God damn it! I had a great slide for. boom, boom, boom. Let's see if I can find it here. I have a great slides for this purpose. Yes, here it is. So I'm going to quickly share my screen with you again. Let's see. If you can see here, this is the shopping part that I was mentioning earlier, shopping in Iceland. Can you see my screen? Yeah. So these are the souvenirs that we offer. The Blue Lagoon skincare, as I mentioned earlier, is great for therapeutic purposes for people that have skin problems. The lava salt I've used many times, a black lava salt that is made here in Iceland. The BioFact serum is a new popular product as well, that we many times have as a souvenir, also as a skin product. The Icelandic wool obviously is world famous and has been, you can get woolen sweaters to take back as a souvenir. Handmade jewelry, the organics, solar organics are soap and other hand products as well. And as I mentioned, the outdoor clothing as well, both from 66 degrees north, from Geyser, or from a company called Zuon. So the outdoor clothing and the lava salt are the ones that I've mostly done for mice groups as a souvenir. The lava salts are easy to take home, and we usually combine it with a little tea package, Icelandic tea, and lava salt. That would be my best recommendation for souvenirs to take back home. Hot springs, can hot springs be also opened for traveler? You mean to bathe in hot springs? That is quite popular, yes, and is open for travelers. But the hot springs that I mentioned earlier, the geysers, they're of course not possible to bathe in. But if that's what you mean. Schengen visa can also allow to both Greenland and Iceland. Yes, yes, we're part of Schengen. As I mentioned earlier, Greenland is a part of Denmark, so is a part of sideways part, politically a part of the European Union as well.
Hi all, regarding to the visa, I just copy a link for you to have the reference on the VFS Global. So actually, Iceland and Greenland also you can apply on Denmark's visa for the sanction visa. And all the information you can contact VFS Global to apply the visa. So we have another question. I think that's quite interesting from some of our participants. That's whether we can do the cruise in Greenland and Iceland. Is this like separate or we can join together?
Sorry, the cruises to Iceland, sorry?
The cruise, whether we can try the cruise in Greenland and Iceland together or separately?
Cruise in Iceland and and I'm not quite sure. Okay, where is that question?
So we have the whale cruise, right?
Yeah.
Is this just only in Greenland or Iceland, or we can combine it together?
They of course cannot be combined together because it takes almost 25 hours to sail between the two countries. But yeah, it can be done in both countries, obviously. Whale watching cruises can be done in both countries, but not combined, no.
And hot springs also be open for traveler?
Yeah, I answered that question. You can visit hot springs. Obviously, there are some you can bathe in even. I mean, the Blue Lagoon is a hot spring you can bathe in. There are many natural hot springs that you can bathe in. But the hot springs that I mentioned in Geysir, the hot spring area, they of course, if it can be opened, I'm not sure what he means by opened, but yeah, they're accessible all year round to visit, yes.
Also, maybe we don't have any more questions by now, so maybe we can continue with our funds with So maybe
Yes.
I would like to look after for 3 questions to find out who can win our Starbucks coffees for upcoming webinar. Okay, so whether you can give us 3 questions one by one, and we understand.
One by one.
Yes, and we understand that somehow for Iceland and Greenland, some of the name is maybe we can miscorrect in the spelling or maybe writing. We can accept some of the familiar to the correct answer. So maybe 3 questions. Yes.
Okay, so the first question is quite easy. Not quite easy, but quite easy to understand. So I mentioned that I mentioned the percentage of the Icelandic population that lives in the capital region. So roughly how much percent of the Icelandic population lives in the municipalities in and around Reykjavik capital? Close? No, that's another percentage. So 360,000 people live in the country. And I mentioned that roughly a percentage live in the capital region.
So we still have not the correct answer. Please continue.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow. He has the exact. That's the number. Yeah. Half. I'll give it to Larry and Tu. Both have it correct. So Larry has the exact number of the people who live in Reykjavik. It's around 60%. Around 60% of the country live in the capital area. So the next question, what is the name of the? Yeah.
Sorry. So we mean that Larry is also the giving correct answer.
We'll give it to Larry. We'll give it to Larry. Yeah.
Okay, correct. Larry is one again.
It closest and the soonest. So the name of the crevasse that you can go diving and snorkeling in Þingvellir National Park. I need the name of the crevasse that you can go diving or snorkeling in Þingvellir National Park. Yes. Yes. Answer.
Correct.
We have an answer. Yeah, close enough. Close enough.
So I would like to correct Minh from Saigon Tourist for the correct answer for the second answer. Our team will contact you also for the Starbucks deliveries in upcoming webinar. And now we would like to invite for the third question.
The third question, thank you. Which one should I take? Okay, I'll take this one here. What year did Ronald Reagan and Mikhail Gorbachev meet in Höfði House in Reykjavik?
Wow.
I mentioned the year. It's difficult. This one is difficult. No. Probably someone is Googling now. Yes, Larry has it again. Larry, 1910. Yeah, 1986 is the correct answer.
So correct one again, Larry Long, for your right answer. So we have all the winners for today's session, and we also looking forward to seeing you with our upcoming webinar. So as I mentioned, we also have the destination expert certificate because we will running our Nordic Part 5 on upcoming weeks. So maybe the mini test will be deliveries after our Part 5 Denmark and Faroe Island. And then we would like to invite you for the test, mini test, to achieve the destination expert certificate. As well, I mentioned in earlier for upcoming session in June and July, we already confirmed with our local experts, and we would like to looking forward to seeing you every Tuesday and Thursday in June and July at 3 p.m. our time for continue with also very beautiful destination, Russia, Denmark, Faroe Island, and also Baltic country, and so on. We would like to invite you with also the same Zoom links and also password. And do not forget to give us your feedback and answer for the survey so that we can do much better and better. And also we would like to keep continue with our workshop and also destination promoting. And before ending for today's session, I would like to thank you also for our North region college holders and also Masako to arrange also very interesting and also very detailed for Iceland and Greenland. And we're looking forward to seeing you all soon for upcoming session. And this is just some very good news that I also just got from our local experts from the region for some of the properties and also the hospitalities in European start to open. And then we would love to looking forward to see all the roof coming soon again and again very soon. Thank you so much, and we would love to see you once again next Tuesday at 3 p.m.